privilege of visiting with Georgia Black. She and her Eddie Stinson mare won the 3D in the first go of the open race at Pink Buckle 2021. Georgia, I love the story of how this filly introduced herself to your program. Would you tell us about that?
Sure. Well, I hope I kind of get this straight, but let's see, when we've always ran barrels. I have a twin sister and we kind of grew up rodeoing in Nevada, and she ran barrels and I cut. And so for years we just ran barrels on some really nice driftwood bred horses. And when we turned 40, my sister said, why don't you just buy a barrel bred horse? They've been, breeding barrel horses for a couple decades now. Why don't you try buying, one of those? And so I thought, well, okay. So I bought 2 tickets, a plane ticket to Oklahoma, 2 of them, hoping Sonia for our 40th could go. And she was busy and couldn't go. And my husband, Jay, was not interested in going to Oklahoma to look at barrel horses. So I ended up taking our oldest daughter, Jet. And we flew back to Oklahoma, and we rented a car, and we drove had a few leads on some horses, one of which was with Mike and Elizabeth Hayes in Louisiana. And so we drove from Oklahoma. We did some sightseeing too. It was a pretty fun trip. So we drove to Louisiana and went back there, and we were looking at Mike and Liz's horses. And there was this beautiful sorrel chestnut colored mare out in the pasture. And I was kind of like, wow, okay, who's that? Well, it ended up being Destination Fame, which is a mare that Kristen Weaver Brown had ridden for Liz. And so we found out she was by Eddie Stinson. And I thought, oh, that's exciting. We really liked the mare. And so Jet got on the phone and figured out who Eddie Stinson was. And then we remembered, I had forgotten to say this earlier, that Tiddy was an Eddie Stinson baby, and we really liked her. So we found out where Eddie was and left Louisiana and went back to Oklahoma and went to Victory Farms and spent a few days there. We kind of looked at some at different places, Littles and other places like that, but we had decided that we wanted an Eddie Stinson filly. So we went out with Danny and Hallie in the side-by-side and went to this. There are several pastures at that time that were Eddie 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, babies, and weaners and whatnot. And so in the 2-year-old filly pasture, this one particular filly just kept walking up to Jet. And we pet her. She was cute, but she was pretty little, and we wanted something leggier. So anyway, we picked this other mare that was relayed out of Eddie Stinson, or by Eddie Stinson, out of Catch These Wings design. Catch These Wings, I think was the mom's name. At any rate, she's an easy jet bred mare. Well, the little filly didn't pass. So the vet checked. So we drove back out there, and we're kind of on a tight timeline because we need to get home. And the little mare came up to Jet again. And finally it was like, okay, this is, for some reason, this mare liked Jet. So she ended up being BF Burrs Alive, which is, they call her Fancy. So it was the Fancy mare. And she's had several, I think lots of good babies for them. One of which was BF Eddie's Alive. And then she's just a great mare. She passed away this year. So we've since gotten a few other babies out of the mare, and we're just very blessed and thankful to have them. But that's Tiny Thing. We call her Tiny Thing. BF Fancy Pants is her name, and she picked Jet. So that's how she ended up at our house, was she liked Jet.
I love that story. Now, how big did she mature to be?
Oh gosh, she's probably 14, 4, 5. She's not 15 hands for sure, but we do have a bit of a weight issue consistently with Tiny Thing. I'm always, my vet Marty Gardner is always telling me, we need to go ahead and lose some weight on Tiny Thing. We got to lose at least, at one point in time, it was definitely 100 pounds. So yeah, she was little when we bought her. She's not real tall, but she's darn sure pretty wide.
Yes.
And, she always gains weight when we travel. So last year we came to the Pink Buckle, and she gained weight on that trip. And this year she went ahead and gained weight again. So she's a good traveler, good eater. She's healthy.
That's good. So at this point, Tiny Thing is more tongue in cheek than physically accurate, we can say.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, a little
Oh,
play on words right there.
that is so fun. So what was she like throughout her training process?
Let's see. She was 2 when we bought her, and we had Ben. I can't remember Ben's name. I'm sorry. He used to work for my sister and Jake Gorel. Ben started her, had her for 60 days, and then we got her. Gosh, we bought him in April, and then both horses came home that fall in September. And Jet's just kind of. I shouldn't claim her because she's really Jet's mare.
Mhm.
So Jet's been riding her since she was 2, and then we rode her a little bit that winter, and then oh gosh, her 3-year-old year we branded on her and branched on her and just gathered outside on her a little bit, and then I think Sonia maybe had her for a little bit, kind of did all rights and lefts with her, and
Mhm.
she's really, I mean, honestly, she's probably just trained herself because she's just such a great little mare. Yeah, Jet's ridden her more. I think my husband would lope her through the barrels quite a bit. So
Mhm.
that was basically her 5-year-old year. We had a little hind suspensory issue, so I didn't futurity her very much. And her 6-year-old year was COVID. And
Mhm.
we ended up being able to come back to the Pink Buckle last year, but we had very limited runs. And then this year we were able to go to a few. We kind of live in a location where you got to travel, you've got to want to be there. So
Yes.
she hasn't had a ton of runs. I think there are other jockeys out there that could darn sure ride her better. Jet isn't wanting to ride her too much because they're not meshing, but hopefully someday, I'm hoping next year Jet will take her and I have some colts coming up. So that's my hope. Jet just kind of goes on with her. But
That is
so I
great.
don't know if that answers your question, but it was,
Yeah.
she's
Yep.
super easy.
That's great. I would love to know how you guys live on a ranch and you ranch full time. So how does ranch work play a part in seasoning these barrel colts for you?
Oh, well, I don't know about seasoning because I feel like we probably lack on that whole being able to time only a lot and haul them a lot of places. So, I mean, uh, I don't know, as far as just getting them broke, that's huge for
Mhm.
us. I mean, I think my timeline's obviously slower. We just live in central Nevada and it's just tougher to get to races and to get to places. The opportunity, the places we go, I'm super thankful for. I would just say ranching just gets them broke. They're exposed to a lot of awkward high pressure situations, maybe not the same that you'd have in a barrel race, but I mean, you never know what happens when you're working cows. There's
Yeah.
always a catastrophe that could arise. And so that part of pressure kind of, and then we brand on them a lot. So we end up roping on all of them
Mhm.
quite a bit. So I think probably just getting exposed to a lot of different elements, I suppose, would help. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know if
What
that
is
answered the question.
Yes, it does for sure. I know a lot of people who ranch work is an integral part of their program for developing colts. So I love that you have that outlet. My final question for you is what is the best piece of horsemanship or barrel racing advice that you've received?
Oh boy. Um, well, remaining consistent, consistency, whether it's uh, just doing I would just have to say being consistent, being steady, being just, I don't know, I'm kind of stumbling with that one, but I would think at this point in time in our realm, just being consistent with things, whether it's going and moving cows, the way you ride them, just try to remain consistent with being steady. I
Mhm.
don't know if that answers your question either, but
Yes,
I'm
that's
kind
a
of
great,
stumbling on that one.
no, that's a great answer.
Uh,
That's tremendous. Well, we are so thrilled for you and your mayor and your whole family. Thank you so much for making the drive. That's a long drive from Nevada to Oklahoma, but pretty cool because it's full circle. That's where you found her, and then that's where
yes.
the competition has been. So we're thrilled, and we can't wait to see you there next year.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.